So in our Sydney studio, from the National Farmers Federation, their president, Fiona Simson, good evening.
Hey, Darren.
Good to have you on the program. And I saw today a quote from you, I hope I've got it right, saying something like, whatever today is, remember, tomorrow we are one day closer to rain.
Absolutely. Look, that's, I think, one of the hopes that keeps everybody really going at the moment, is that every day that goes past is one day closer to rain. It has to be. And, you know, in a drought where you've got no idea when it's going to stop, then you have to have some hope. And you have to feel like you're in control and have some choices in your life and what you do. And so, you know, by thinking that it's one day closer to rain, then I think really people can get themselves through this and hopefully onto the next stage when it does rain again.
But we saw glorious TV footage today of people in Longreach where they're getting a good dousing of rain today. And I saw one farmer, a female farmer, she was dancing in her gumboots in the mud and you know, throwing her hat in the air. It was just beautiful to see.
Oh, look, it is, and I think we all rejoice when it starts to rain somewhere. Everybody rejoices because at least you know it can rain somewhere, and it hasn't forgotten how to. So, you know, one shower of rain, of course, is not going to break the drought, but it does lift people's spirits. It does fill dams. It does, at this time of the year, get grass growing. And really, you know, at this point in time, those sorts of events can really, you know, start to lift people's spirits and make them feel that there is a future and that they're going to come out the other side. I mean, Aussie farmers, you know, tend to be really optimistic people anyway, but, you know, to have a rain event is really good news, and we haven't had one like this for a long time. So just fingers crossed, Darren, that it is forecast to come down a little bit further, and it is forecast to have some good widespread rain over quite a large patch of Australia. So just hope that that happens.
Yeah. Now, look, you and your team have been all over the country. You see how bad it is, especially in Queensland, New South Wales and parts of Victoria. You're dealing with governments, mainly federal, but also state governments. The message getting out there, though, to farmers, they seem to think, we're not getting enough. You have the government, federal government, ScoMo's announcing almost daily some new project, some new scheme, some new idea, and some of them are very good. But what's, from your point of view, from the Federated Farmers, what do you think either is happening is good, and what's happening what should be happening?
Well, look, we know that probably, you know, well over 90% of farmers are accessing very little government help. You know, maybe they're putting some money away in farm management deposits perhaps, or using income averaging. But by and large, at the moment, there's only a small percentage of people that are actually accessing government help, and it's really starting to hurt. So, and it's not just farmers, Darren. I mean, you know this. It's about small rural and regional communities, people who depend on agriculture, and businesses and people in those communities as well. What we have to do is we absolutely have to change the way that we approach drought in Australia. I mean, it's a land of droughts and flooding rains. We know as sure as anything that when this drought finishes, we will have another one at some point in the future. So instead of just, you know, taking a deep breath and thinking, phew, that's over, we won't think about drought again until the next one, we actually have to start treating it as just a regular occurrence. We have to bring in the states, the feds. You know, you were talking earlier about people trying to claim credit. We don't want, you know, the last thing that drought needs and that farmers need and that rural and regional communities need is politics. We just want to all work together. We need to collaborate. We need to share data. We need to analyse what's been put on the table before, analyse whether it's worked or not, look at all the impacts, look at all the things that we want to achieve, and work on it, you know, pretty much all the time. So don't just treat drought as a one in, you know, a decade occurrence. Treat it as something that we work on every time. And the government's put in there now the Future Drought Fund, so we can actually build on that and think about what we should spend that money on, but also, you know, really work on building up strong rural and regional communities, strong landholders, strong agricultural industry. We've got a vision for a $100 billion industry by 2030, and we're sure we can reach it, but we just need to make sure that everybody's supported in this really hard time now. And we thank the government for the support, and also thank them that they're continuing to look at how they can support us, as it, you know, the drought seems to be at this stage never ending.
Now, it's not really your bailiwick, but I use the word wastage. Now, it's a one word used to cover every sin, whether it be Murray-Darling Basin, whether it be any whatever. And the stories recently, we've seen them of the farmers either, as I mentioned in my introduction, not allowed to take water that is marked for environmental work in the forests, or now with prices going up, not being able to afford the water. Have you got some reaction to that?
Yeah, look, I think we need to really have a look at some of those things that are happening now and make sure that they're very transparent. I mean, we believe that there has to be transparent, good decision making by any of the authorities involved. And the Productivity Commission, for example, one of the independent authorities in this, made 38 recommendations about how we can improve the plan. The plan is just an agreement to all work together over 100 years. Then, we haven't done that, and this is the first attempt where we've done it. But farmers, and particularly people who need that water, would just hate to see it actually, wasted and spilling over banks. And we really need to make sure that we can have accountability by the decision makers. And it's good now, Darren, that they've put somebody like Mick Keldy, for example, really tough cop on the beat, in a role of commissioner role to actually oversee some of the things that are happening in the basin. And I'm sure, that when he looks at some of these things, he will really get to the bottom of what's happening there, and we can make some really good improvements in that system. It's a really difficult time for some of those landholders.
Yeah, and then just to finish up, again, you mentioned earlier, it's not just farmers, it's those farming communities, those farming towns, those country towns. I can't give the credit to the person, I've forgotten who it is, but this idea about buy your Christmas presents from the country is a great campaign. I hope it catches on.
Yeah, it's doing the rounds on Facebook, I think, at the moment. I think it's called Buy from the Bush. And if people search that, it's featuring businesses that are set up in rural and regional Australia that are selling products online. And I mean, that's just one website. I'm sure there's others as well. But that's a really, really great way to support the people in the bush. People sometimes say come and visit, but then they are at the moment, using water and resources. So there's a bit of a mixed view about that. But certainly buying Christmas presents from some of these online shops, they're fantastic prezzies. They can mail them out. You're supporting the bush. People are having a go out there, Darren. They don't want handouts. They really, really are grateful for the support of government and everybody else in the cities as well. But they're doing it a bit tough. So that's a really great way that people can actually support the people in the bush.
Well, it's a nice positive way to go out on. Fiona, thanks for your time.